this survey is very unique and one of a kind in the area of bribery and corruption, since it gives a very different perspective and it uses the perspective of the employee standpoint. Indian organizations traditionally have taken an outside-in approach whereby they have always looked at this compliance from a regulatory perspective or regulatory-driven initiatives. Given that we have the rising instances of bribery and corruption, it seems that a different approach needs to be taken. The historic approach appears to be inadequate today in today's world. Keeping these sentiments in mind, Deloitte India has conducted this survey to understand the public perception on bribery and corruption. The idea or the objective of this survey is to explore the other side of the issue. Whether an approach led by employee activism on the issue of bribery and corruption compliance can provide some food for thoughts to the organization, whether it can bring down the incidence of corruption and bribery at the workplace. The idea is to understand what employees in their individual capacity feel about anti-bribery compliance efforts, as well as seek their views on how they can support their organizations in their efforts towards managing the risk of corruption and bribery. We recently conducted this survey to gather views of working professionals in their individual capacity. This was across all sectors, across all cities of India, and we use social media to carry out this survey. The responses were received through social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and the responses received were also publicized or disseminated through the same media. There are actually a few interesting learnings. Given the large number of corporate scams, there seems to be an impact on the conscience of the employees, as 88% of the respondents said they would not feel comfortable working for an organization where the perception of corruption and bribery risk is higher. This actually reveals a changing sentiment among the employees. Historically, the corruption in organization has been considered as a cost of doing business, and rightfully so in a country like India, which appears to be changing since a majority of the survey respondents, which is 71%, felt that organizations in India can eradicate bribery and corruption from their business. This actually is a change in the mindset that people at employees level believe that this can be done when employees take the responsibility of personally imbibing a policy of anti-bribery and corruption and consider if it is their responsibility and if it is senior management led by ethical showing of ethical practices, bribery can be eradicated from workplaces. About 55% of the respondents said that they were unaware or unsure of an organization policy pertaining to anti-bribery and corruption at their workplace. In addition, 61% said that they received no information or guidance on corruption and bribery related issues. This is definitely a cause of concern. While organizations face several changes in combating the risk of bribery and corruption, such as lack of resources, cultural diversities, business and geographical environment, and employee sentiments somewhat vary. The business mindset towards bribery, unrealistic targets, lack of senior management commitment, limited communication, these are actually some of the key challenges which have been reflected through this survey by employees. There are a few actually. Ethical behavior needs to be recognized, celebrated, and perhaps incentivized. This is one of the key findings which came out. Developing a self-awareness among employees and making them voluntarily contributors to the cause of anti-bribery corruption can actually help reduce the incidence of bribery and corruption. It is also important to demonstrate a zero tolerance by taking suitable corrective action against the perpetrator, such as withholding variable pay, withholding bonuses, or dismissing the employee in question. Upholding ethical practices should form a mandatory component of an employee's performance evaluation in the organizations. There should be dedicated cross-functional team to discuss and drive the initiative of anti-bribery. There should also be scenario-based classroom training on such issues for people to become clearer on aspects of bribery and corruption. Overall, for any compliance program to be very effective, a clear tone at the top, which is clearly demonstrated by having a zero tolerance, is the most important and the key.